For a long, long time, spiritual people have said their physical bodies were not important. For a long, long time, spiritual people have said, for a long time, you've heard it said that your body is not important to your spiritual life. I heard this message a lot, all throughout my life, and I've learned that it is simply not true. I've come to believe in such a thing as embodied holiness. That physicality is spirituality, and spirituality must always, always have an effect on physicality. That the two are one and the same, that we are spirits encased in forms made out of dust and dirt and clay, breathed into life and moving with great flow and great power that comes from the spirit that dwells within. But as recently as certain philosophers in all sorts of centuries, from the Greeks to the Romans to the Middle Ages to all sorts of things, we've seen this extremism swing between spirituality and physicality. Spirituality and physicality, which is more important? And I would argue today that both are so important. The title of my message is Embodied Holiness. For thousands of years, people have swung on a pendulum between physicality, spirituality, physicality, spirituality. Which is more important? From the Greeks that said that the spirit wasn't important, to the people that said that the body wasn't important, we see all these different extremes, when in reality, I have come to believe that we are spirits encased by vessels made of dust, and that we as humans are incredibly unique, and that you can no more split our experience apart than you can split apart breath from life. We see that there is nothing new under the sun when we open up old passages like 2 John. 2 John, verse 7. There is truly nothing new. John was someone that walked with Jesus on the earth in 70, 90 years after. He's dealing with the same thing. Many deceivers have gone out into the world. They do not confess the coming of Jesus Christ in the flesh. So many people have said that the body is not important or that the body is secondary. But if Christ has indeed come in the flesh, the Word made flesh and dwelt among us, the Word made flesh to show us the Father, to show us God, then how important is this body that He came to redeem? this here and now body, this physicality that we find our spirits enmeshed in this plane of existence. How much more important is this? I found out the hard way about what happens when you try to split your spirituality out from your body. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And I very nearly left this plane of existence because I had decided that my spirituality was more important than my physicality. Now, there is another flip side to this, which is that you can get way too bound up in your physicality and forget your spirituality, but both of them are meant to run along the same way. But in the year 2020, I almost passed from this plane of existence because I had come to the conclusion that my body didn't matter to God, to be quite honest, and that my spirituality was all that mattered. And I did not realize that my spirituality was meant to impact the world around me. And that spirituality that is not connected to the world that we are a part of right now is not very good spirituality. And so I got very sick and had to spend the better part of 2 years rebuilding my body. I'm very happy to say that I'm happy and healthy now, which was in very large part due to the wisdom of people that have studied physicality for a long time. But there are a few things that I've learned that I think are really important for whole and holy living. And I just so believe that I believe now that caring for your body in the now is so important. And it is so important to take care of yourself and to give your body what it needs within reason. Because this body is meant to carry a spirit, and it's meant to bear up these spiritual experiences and everything else. And if there's no physical foundation, things just get a little strange. And so one of the things that I really, really found to be important, there were 5 things that I really found to be important, and one of them was hydration. Like, we all know about drinking water, etc., but I also didn't know that if you're drinking filtered water that it's stripped all the minerals out of the water. We are people that crave and need water. We need spiritual water and we need real water. And real water has minerals in it like salt, magnesium, all these different mineral things that get stripped out of the water when it's filtered and purified. So now I drink herbal teas that infuse minerals back in. I eat quality salt. I get minerals where I can. Another thing that I learned about was sleep. I didn't know that sometimes going to bed at 9 and sometimes going to bed at 1 and sometimes waking up at 6 and sometimes waking up at 10 was not a sustainable way to have a healthy sleep cycle. And this is so tied to having a good spiritual life, because prayer and dreams and rest are so integral to having a healthy spiritual life. I'm not saying never wake up in the night to pray, never wake up in the night to write something down, never stay up all night praying. I'm just saying, as a regular habit, having decent sleep also means that I'm more alert when I'm awake and when I'm asleep. And that ties us back into the quality of our light. Waking up with the sunrise is such a good practice, and going outside and getting sunlight in the morning is so important because it allows our bodies to set hormonal health and to set natural rhythms that help us to rest. And, monitoring the amount of screen time and blue light and really taking care of our bodies in that way is super integral too, and that helps us get better sleep, and it becomes this mindfulness practice to pay attention to these things. Food is also super important because what we put into our bodies becomes a building block for our bodies. And, I don't know if you know this, but your body is constantly remaking and rebuilding itself and, letting go of the old and making the new. And so the nutrition that we put into our bodies, the quality, whether it was real food or chemically processed food, whether it was, proper amounts of protein, proper amounts of healthy fat, proper carbs, like that matters because it's going to become the presence of a physical body that you can hold on to. It becomes something that becomes a foundation for that body. Good food is hard to come by. There are ways to get around that. I'll talk more about that at another time. But even just being aware of the food that you're putting into your body is such a practice. And then two, like having really healthy movement, allowing movement, like movement begets movement, and not allowing yourself to be stagnant, I believe in turn fuels a spirit that is not stagnant. And finding ways to gently move your body, such as walking, weightlifting, swimming, things of that nature that don't stress the body but that do keep it in a healthy forward movement, is so important. And about that time, I was rereading 1 Thessalonians 5:17, which says, "Pray without ceasing." Growing up in a religious context, I just didn't know what it meant to pray without ceasing. That sounded like a really hard thing that I had to do to somehow impossibly be pleasing to God. But what I found is that allowing my waking and sleeping every moment to be an opportunity for communion with God has become prayer without ceasing. So now I have these rhythms in my day and in my life, and I also have capacity for staying up later to pray on occasion, or fasting, or doing other things because I have a regular routine. But when I wake up in the morning and cook a breakfast that has 60 to 80 grams of protein, which is now what I do, I am praying as I'm going. I'm beginning the conversation with God. When I go outside to get morning sun in my eyes, like that is a reminder that God has made the sun to rise and set. There is no part of my day that is not spiritual. There's no part of my work that's not spiritual. My driving, it's not spiritual. my friendships, or cleaning, or going, or doing, it's just as spiritual as when I stop and sit still. And very controversial statement, I don't typically do a quiet time in most seasons of my life, because those morning routines where I'm in movement, prayer becomes a movement in my life, and the whole day is prayer. Doesn't mean that there aren't times when I don't tuck away. Doesn't mean that there's not quiet moments, but honoring my body and talking to God while I do it has become so holy to me, and allowing my mindset to shift from this religious idea that the body has to be punished or what have you, and saying, no, the body needs to be cared for, And in that, I am honoring God. It's been such a mindset shift. Such a mindset shift, honestly. There's a verse, too, and let me say this. Stability and begets peace, which leads to an increased capacity to have spiritual experiences. I was having an amazing prayer life in 2020, and my body almost burned out because spiritual experiences, our spirits and our bodies are connected, and capacity, oh my goodness, capacity to have these experiences and to connect with God in powerful ways requires a healthy body. And there, and you also can't look away from the fact that the spirit within you and the spirit that you're of will have an effect on your body. And, the spirit that raised Christ from the dead, if you invite that spirit to come and live within you, the spirit, the voice I love, the one I follow, raised Christ from the dead, and he has resurrected things in my body that no amount of healthy living ever could have. And in times when I have not been able to care for my body as I should, I have been sustained by the spirit that is within me. That's why people fast. It's to find out the spirit that's within you. It's to find out who you are and the spirit that's within you. But if you are not fasting, partner with that spirit and take care of your body, please. Because spirituality is practicality, is physicality, and having a life that's in good order absolutely is connected to and essential to having good health. So find the things that need to be laid, the tracks and the groundwork for having a healthy life, because I want you to have a body and a spirit that are alive and well and are able to run full tilt after everything rich and spiritual with God.